How's everyone doing? There's been a lot of discussion in my group recently about thumbnails, titles, thumbnails. And I realized I hadn't really done anything on the channel recently talking about thumbnails. So I thought I'd jump into a little bit, because a lot of people always ask me questions that I think are obvious, but sometimes they're not, because different people use different software for creating thumbnails. And there's simple things that I think sometimes people just don't know how to do, and are trying to figure out how to design the thumbnail, or how to get the right balance, or what they should be putting in their thumbnails, what they shouldn't. So we're going to do a little bit of a lot of things today. Let me take a quick peek at the chat here. Is that Nick Niven hanging in there? Hey, Nick, how you doing, pal? Good to see so many members in here. Looks like we have a new member too. Noah Eats. If you just become a member, there's go to my membership tab on my channel, and there's as you scroll down, you'll see the perks. There's also links to all the things you can now get access to, and one of them is the Facebook group. Make sure you go to the Facebook group, drop your channel URL, and ask for admission. That's a great place to be. Glad to have you with us. So when you're designing some thumbnails, I really want to see if we can. Let me show you some stuff. Let me share a screen here. One of the things you want to think about when you're designing thumbnails is the simplicity of it. If you look at, let me go full screen, some of the stuff that's here, you're going to see a lot of different styles of thumbnails. There's not always one right way to do a thumbnail, but I'll tell you one thing that you want to be focusing on right off the bat is the simplicity of it. If you look at what Sean Cannell did right here with Think Media, real simple, right? He's got the StreamYard logo. He's got his phone holding up with the play button and the arrow connecting them. I mean, it's real obvious in this thumbnail that it's, you know, how to use StreamYard from your phone, how to live stream using StreamYard from your phone. Really, really straightforward, easy to understand stuff. I always think about what can convey the message really simple. Even something like this, I don't love the balance of where they put the text, but they have a electronic hi-hat, cheap two-piece hi-hat. They've put a little glow on the hi-hat itself, and they've diffused the background so that it's blurred out, so it doesn't distract. Simple things like that, creating depth. Our good friend Nick Niman right up here, you can see real simple stuff, right? You know, the title and the thumbnail work really well together. Make money from your YouTube channel, channel money reviews. And here it is his face, right? You got his face there. You've got money in the background, really diffused in blue, so it's there, but it's an added element. Instead of just a flat color, he's actually got dollar bills floating around back there. But it's not way up front. He's diffused it in blue. He's got the YouTube logo and make money. So when you look at the thumbnail, you go, what's that video about? Looks like how to make money on YouTube. It just nails it. So these are the kind of things you really want to think about when you're designing thumbnails, when you're coming at it. Start with a very simple idea that making it easier for the viewer to understand what the video is about by using the thumbnail is the first place to start. It's the number one thing to do. I think a lot of people build these very heavy text-laden over all kinds of words. They're stuffing the whole title up in their thumbnail, things like that. Try to go with simplicity. And a lot of times when I'm coming up with an idea for a video, I work out the title, and I rough the title out, and I rough the thumbnail out before I've ever filmed anything, because that way I know ahead of time, this is what it's going to look like from the outside. I want to make sure whatever the video is about there, that it represents that right from the start. So when people start watching that video, they go, oh, okay, you know, exactly what I expected from the packaging, the promise of the packaging started happening inside of the video. But let me show you some simple tricks here. Let me go over here. Let me find some software. There's a software. One of the things that you want to do, make sure you're finding a software that makes a lot of sense for you. I think a lot of people try to use a lot of free elements and things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as you start progressing as a creator, make sure you're finding a software that works. My favorite is Affinity Photo, Affinity, Affinity. It's virtually identical to Photoshop. Without that recurring fee. Photoshop is every year you have to keep paying for it over and over. And I think they have a cyber sale going on right now. I'll have to look that up. I think Affinity Photo, it's not very expensive any time of the year, but this time of year, I think it's like $40. And you get a lifetime, license to use it with all the updates. So one of those things you want to think about. They have a few different products. Let me see if I can find it. I can put a link in the description. Affinity Photo. I'll find it real quick here, and I'll drop it in case anyone's interested, because I'm going to be using that software today. Affinity Photo 2, there we go, and a link to Affinity Photo 2. It looks like they're selling it, yeah, 40% off right now. So it's $40, one payment of $40.99. Pretty cheap. I like that. I'm going to put that right here in the chat so you have it here. And you can go take a look at it if you want. Cutting the Caboose. Hey, Danielle, how you doing, pal? Thanks for the 50-pound super chat. Drivers, save money by putting much larger wheels on the back of your car. That way you'll always be going downhill, saving on fuel. See, smart advice from our good friend Danielle. They don't make any bigger wheels than Danielle has on all her vehicles because every one of her vehicles is supersized. Even when she comes into the U.S. and like rents a vehicle for the day, it's always like, do you have anything in a school bus? What are you doing? So thank you again for that, Danielle. Danielle actually has a product, a tube spanner that's really cool that allows you to take your thumbnail after you've designed it. And with one click, it inserts it into the YouTube homepage. It overlays it and lets you see what it looks like with in comparison to the other things that are on the in browse. Very cool. You should check that out. Feel free to drop a link in there, Danielle, to Tube Spanner if you'd like. So let me do this. Let me pull up, let me share a screen. Right here. So this is Affinity. I just went to the website right now, 40% off. This is the one I'm going to be using today to show you some of the things. It's what I used to create the thumbnail for today's video. I like it. It's fairly advanced. Let me hide this thing so it's not there. Let me get rid of the taskbar too. We don't need to be looking at that all morning, right? Hide that. Okay, that's better. So what you want to do is you want to start finding a software that has layers. And much like when you edit video, where you have tracks, you have like your audio and then some video and then maybe some B-roll and you have these tracks. A decent photo editing software kind of works the same. It works in layers. Even though the image is looking at you this way, think of it as front to back. The top layer is the thing that's in the front of the picture, and the layers that are lower on the scale would be stuff in the back. And creating these layers to be able to bring yourself in there, drop your face in there, drop whatever image you want to have in there, drop text in there, adjust colors. It's really important to be able to learn how to use a software that has layers. And this one here, if you look on the right here, you can see the different layers I've got going on. It's a little tricky to see this this menu over here, kind of small, but these are all different layers. Some of them I can turn them on and off and say, okay, well, there was my face. There's one of my hands that I put in there. There's another hand that I put in there. There's the background layer. There's my text layer. This is the blue that I put underneath that. All layers. In learning to create layers and building a thumbnail up from the bottom is really important. I think one of the things a lot of people ask me all the time is like, how do you get that, how do you do that thing where you take a picture of your face and you get yourself in there with no background, like really, really simple stuff like that. One of the first things I always do, let me see if I have this. I take a lot of photos of myself. Let me see. No, I don't want to use Shotcut, not today. Let's pull that open. There we go. I don't need to use this. This is a shot I did right here, actually. Right behind me, up on the ceiling, is a pull down photo. It's a photo background, a white one. They're designed to actually sit on the floor, and then you lift them up. But I mounted mine to the ceiling and I pull it down. So when I want to do photos, I just reach back and I pull the thing down and I have a white background. The reason I like white for me, I have a green screen on the ground too. I like white because I have so much curly hair. When I'm removing the background, it's easier for me to use white because it helps. It's easier to pull that out. It's a little easier than the green. The green, if it spills through it all, you see green in my hair. People who have shorter hair and easy hairlines that aren't like crazy like mine, it's not so much of a problem. But that's the first thing I do is I'll sit and I'll take a bunch of pictures. You can kind of see it here up in the back. You can see that I have that mounted and a couple of lights up top. Getting the lighting right, make sure you're pretty well lit, is really important too. If you're someone who's doing this kind of thing where you're using your face in your thumbnails, Get it. You can do this against like a clean wall, you know, something that has one color. Try not to do it in a room with a bunch of stuff behind you because it's harder. There's too many things going on. It's harder to remove the background. But I'll do this all day long. I'll just have, like, this was ones I did. I had to do one where I looked surprised or shocked. So I kind of like did all these poses that are just, you know, me looking confused, shocked, scratching my head. And I'll sit there. I'll have my my channel manager and girlfriend, Megan, sit with the camera and just shut her up. She'll just shoot a lot of pictures of me. And I'll just do crazy poses and go, just take them all, and I'll go through them and find ones I like. Some are good, you know, some are silly. But that's all I do is all these faces, which is goofy if you're into the goofy face thing. So when I want to do that kind of thing this was for a specific thumbnail, but I used a piece of it today because it worked for what I was doing here today. I had one I was looking up, but I didn't have my hands in the right spot, so I had to add them. So doing something like that, if you have an image, this was the image, right? So here it is. Let me get myself out of this so you can just see. Here was the image I used. And what's going on here is it's just me in front of that screen, right? So what I usually do is like a tool like this, you'll get, you can use different tools. They have the flood select that can remove the background, but it doesn't always do it perfectly. Typically what I'll do is I'll use something like the selection tool, which is just, you can control how big the thing is, you know, and if it snaps to the edges. I've got it set to snap to the edges, so it should kind of snap to edges that it gets near. If you look at my shoulder, when I get over near it, you see how it jumped and it started tracing that shoulder. When I get over here, it'll jump, it'll trace that shoulder. And I just kind of go around and I trace what I wanted. Now my hands were down. They didn't really work for the shot, but I only really want the top for this particular one. So what I'll do is I'll trace it, and then what happens is it didn't get all my hair perfectly, but up in this top area, it has a refine tool. I can refine what's going on. It takes it and it makes it red. And as you can see, some of the white in my hair, the background is coming through. It didn't get selected out. So you just take this tool and you kind of brush over it, and it says, okay, we'll refine those sections. And it just makes it a little cleaner like that, and it's able to sort of solve problems. And then once you apply that, you're sitting here with a select. Now I've selected myself. In this case, I tend to do that, and then I just invert the selection up here. And basically what I'm doing is I'm telling it, well, I selected myself. I'm going to invert it, so now it's the same pattern, but it's now going to affect everything else but me. So I've kind of reversed, you know, just turned it around, if that makes sense, right? Because the selection tool, I selected me and I went, oh, if I started erasing, it would erase me. I'm like, no, keep me and erase the background. So invert the selection, make it be everything else except what I drew a line around. And that's a real simple way to do that. And then when you pull it up there, you can just pull out an eraser tool, nice and simple. And if you have it the right size, this is a great tool that has all your eraser size and how intense it is. You can just sit there and you can erase all the background. You just take it right out. Okay, there you go. Erase the background, and then you can deselect. I don't need it selected anymore. And then I end up with this. And then a simple crop, I'll just crop it to where I need it and go, well, I probably only need like whatever, maybe, what if I was using maybe that much of it? Then I'll just crop it in and say, okay, let's crop that in. I don't need all that extra. Get myself centered in the grid, and then I'll apply it. And there we go. And you can you see here, now you can see through my hair, all the little hairs that are popping out there. You can see that the background's been removed. That's really, really a helpful thing to do a lot of times when you want to put yourself in a good tool that'll do that effectively. Photoshop can do it. Like I said, Photoshop is a little more expensive. But just a simple select, you sort of refine the selection and just erase the background. Now you've got an image of you with the background removed. And a lot of times at this point, I'll export this and save that because I might want to use that somewhere else. So a lot of times when I take the time to remove the background, I'll put those in a file and save it as, oh, these are ones I've removed the background, and I'll name them like looking up. So when I'm rifling through the folder and I need something, if I'm trying to find it, I can search and go, do I have a picture of me looking up? And I'll have one that's looking up. So real simple things like that for removing the background is how you get started. I've got 2 layers going on. So all I did was I brought that in here. And if I turn everything off, you'll see when I did the design here, I just said, let me turn all this everything off on this. There was me. There it was. I just laid it in there. And then, there was just layers of background that I started putting in here. I like this sort of bubbly circle background. That's one I found from stock Adobe. where I usually get most of my images from. You can use something like Pixabay is free. Pexels is free. They have some okay looking stuff. If you want nicer stuff, you probably want to sign up for, an asset house that'll give you some better stuff to work with. But just creating images, that actual background there was not what that's not how it started. It was actually, let me see if I can find it real quickly for you. I'll show you what I was actually using. It's from an older video. Let me find it. Where was it? It was here. This was actually the image. Let me place it here. As you can see, it's much bigger than the canvas space I'm using. I'll put it up top. That's what it was. It was this. Let me get that bigger. That was it. It was just this background that I found that I liked. I hadn't seen a lot of people use something like this. So when I do thumbnails and I want mine to look a little different, I try to find a background that I don't see everyone else use. A lot of times when people are making thumbnails, they'll go with like a solid color and they'll just put like a blue or a green, and that can work. But as you saw that that Nick had done on his his thumbnail right here, see how he had done that really cool blue with the money, and it kind of gets a little darker. See how it's darker here than it is in the center. He just did a nice job with it. Doing a little something in the background can help that be a little more powerful than if he had just done his face on blue. It's got a little more depth to it. I think one of the things people forget about is creating some depth is really important. When you put your thumbnail together. You're probably not even seeing this, but he's even got a little bit of a shadow behind the text and the YouTube logo that you can barely see, but it's a little shadow thrown down to the right that helps it project, and it gives it more dimension and more depth. So one of the things you want to think about, making sure you're creating some interesting layers that don't fight. Don't have your background fight with your foreground, right? Something simple like this is, see how bright this is? When I was doing this, I was like, man, that's just too much. So what I had done is I put it into the background. You can see it there. And I actually overlaid it. I put a little bit, I put a little bit of a vignette on it. So it's upside down. I actually had it this way originally. And I put a little bit of a vignette so the bottom was darker. And then I layered a little bit of blue into it, which is really simple with something like Affinity. If you click on a layer and open up the layer effects, you can see what's going on here. It gives you the options to do things like put a shadow, put an outer glow. You can outline. You can make things more 3D, make them look beveled or embossed. But you can see I have a color overlay right here selected, and I picked the color and I dialed in a little bit of blue. If I turn it off, it goes back to that original color. But I put a little blue in it. I'm like, let me put a little color overlay. If, I have it about 29%. If I had it way up, it would be too much. It's actually distracting and pulling away from what I wanted. So I was like, let me just get a little blue in it, because I was using blue in the top section. And when I did this, I put it in there and I said, I think I like it better if the shadow's up top, because it feels like it's coming from that blue bar a bit. It creates that depth, almost like the bar is, is throwing a shadow on it. So little simple things like that was just to try to create these layers of depth. One of the things you'll also notice if you see my layer here, see how my hair has that whitish glow around it? That's a question I get asked a lot too. Like, how do you get that? I showed you how to crop it out, right? But that layer, if I click on that one, that's that outer glow I was talking about. I'll turn it off and you can see that's just me, which is fine. Sometimes that works perfectly depending on the thumbnail. But I think that sometimes adding just a simple glow, not a crazy color, I like just white or something fairly straightforward, can help separate you from the background. See how now I pop a little bit off of the blue right there. It just helps it out a little bit. So if you're going to put yourself over a color like that, it just makes it jump. So think about the dimensionality. Simple, try to get things centered. If you notice, when I put myself in there, let me undo a couple of steps. What I did with that layer is I tried to make sure I was centered in there. A lot of times I'll open up like the crop tool and go, let me see if I'm fairly, am I fairly centered in that thumbnail? Think about the layout when you start putting elements in your thumbnail. One of the mistakes a lot of people make is they put too many things in there, and there's so much going on. They got, an element over here, an element over there, arrows, circles, their face, a branding, and it's so many things that your eye gets pulled all over the place. A really good thumbnail, you should be able to feel, you should glance at it, just glance at it and know what that video is going to be about. That your eye doesn't get pulled all over the place. That's why when I did this one and I put the text in, I was like, all right, I'm going to put myself, there's 4 layers right here you're looking at. The first layer is the background, those bubbles, right, that I put in there, those circles. That's kind of diffused a little bit. There's me over, then the blue layer is over that blue bar. Then I layer myself over so you can see my head when it comes up is then over the blue. And then I got the word thumbnails on top of everything in yellow. So the color choice, blue and yellow, complementary colors, they work really well together. So I put that thumbnails right on top and have me looking up. So when you look at me, I'm looking up. So it draws your eye up like, well, what's he looking at? The word thumbnails. I originally started with this and said, oh, I think it'd be cool if it was almost a little angelic. Like I got my hands up, like, because I'm asking, like, how do you make great thumbnails? So I put a couple of hands in. It's actually the same hand. I just copied it and pasted it the other way. So really, really simple layering techniques. I put the same glow on my hands a little bit, so that they would glow a tiny bit. So that's little tricks like that is just, that cutout, learning how to cut yourself out, take some pictures. That's one of the most important things, I think. If you're going to use yourself in a thumbnail, take the time to just get in front of it. You can even hang like a white sheet or something up on the wall. And just, take the time to light it well. So it's well lit. You got good light coming in a few directions. You don't want a lot of shadows on your face. If you see, we were looking at both Nick's and Sean's, see how well lit Nick is right there. It looks really good. See how well lit Sean is too. It's just nicely lit, easy to understand. It's very crisp. You can do stuff like that even with your phone. It doesn't, you don't have to have an expensive like DSLR or mirrorless camera. You can do this kind of stuff with your phone. Just think about getting pictures. And like I showed you, taking a lot of pictures is really important. I think what happens is sometimes people don't think about, the future. If you take a lot of pictures or have a lot of pictures of yourself and you're using yourself in your thumbnails, take the time to, take several hundred pictures in different, shirts and different expressions and think about how you might use it down the line. So when you do go to make a thumbnail, you're not just you in that exact same pose or picture every single time. I think that's another mistake that people make is they only have a handful of images of them and all their thumbnails start looking very identical. And that makes it harder for the viewer to understand if they've seen a video before or not when they all start looking so similar that there's no distinction. So think about making sure that they're distinct and that they stand out from one another. One of the other things too, when you're using, what, oh my God, the thumbnail, what is this? It's all, I'm reading, what did Pete say? It's all a lie. You said I'm throwing a fly. Yes, everything is untrue. My hands aren't real in it, Pete. Everything about it is totally faked. Let me bring up the size. One of the things I also think about too, in a good photo editor, I try to get my image centered when I'm working on it. One of the mistakes we make is we build thumbnails and we have them this big, right? So they're front and center and you're like, oh my gosh, look at that. And you're working on it. But what you're not realizing is it's going to end up on YouTube and it's going to be very small, especially when it shows up on mobile. So a lot of times I'm really shrinking it down and going, does that still make sense? When it's small, can I still figure out what that, does it catch my eye? Do the colors work? Is it not cluttered? Can I understand it? Because that it's going to be smaller when someone finds it on a mobile device. Another thing I keep in mind is, I don't know if you guys have noticed this recently, but if you look, YouTube started shaving the corners on the thumbnails, right? So do you see how it's now rounded? It used to be square, but now all the thumbnails have a round edge. So you want to keep that in mind when you're building thumbnails. Let's see. Oh, my friend, Boogie Woogie Blues and classical piano. She might be in here. Are you in here? Maybe you were. You may be. She did a line around her thumbnails, but what she missed out on was now they're curving the corners, so her line is all chopped. So if it's something that you want to frame, if that works for you, I'm not a huge fan of framing, but I get it what she was doing here, piano lessons and trying to bring that green neon in. What I'd recommend is making sure you round that corner, not make it a pointed corner, bring it in a bit so that it fits, that you'll see it. It doesn't get chopped off like that. Same thing here with Golf Plus. He's got a little bit of a border up here and it's getting cut right off there. Though it's a great thumbnail. This is one of my coaching clients. Real simple, easy to understand. 2 images. Watch this. Charlie Woods chirps at PGA Pros. That's Tiger Woods' son. Really, really cool. Same with Casey Neistat, right? He does real simple, eye-catching thumbnails. We Are Yeti. That's a great look. I mean, these are real. The thumbnails that really tend to work are the ones that are simple, easy to understand, jump right out at you. Like these are the kind of ones. This is someone I did a consultation with. too busy, right? Too busy, too many things going on, all kinds of words. Like I'm supposed to sit here and read this. Then he's got, a PowerPoint logo. He's got 3 different monitors with a bunch of stuff on the monitors. And then 1, 2, 3. And then he's got, presenter view, presentation view, desktop. It's too much. You know what I mean? This is his highest performing video, but it's because of the title, not the thumbnail. It's really, really hard to understand. I think he could have got it done just by showing 3 monitors and used, and got the idea that that's what we're doing here, showing how to do PowerPoint in 3 monitors. I think simple will always be better in terms of connecting with people. If they're too cluttered and there's too much going on, stuff that jumps, stuff that pops out at your eye, thinking about even sometimes simple backgrounds. These guys right there, it's like, oh yeah, it jumps right out at me, right? The peppers here look really good. She did a little bit of overlay, but simple stuff I think works and helps sell it. One of the masters at this is, and I get yelled at sometimes for mentioning them because people are like, stop mentioning Mr. Beast. But Mr. Beast does this so well. Real simple titles. Last to take hand off jet, keeps it. And then it's him, right? Just as a captain. He's got the jet in here and he's got everybody with their hands on it. But clearly this has been photoshopped. It's not one shot. They added things in, the background, the colors, the way they've proportioned the plane and everything. They've definitely worked on this one quite a bit to make sure that it all pops. They're all in yellow, how they have people dressed yellow and black pants so that it doesn't distract you. You can see, oh, there's 5 people, but they're all dressed the same. Like choices that are shockingly good, right? Shockingly good when he makes content. I love watching him make, thumbnails because they're simple. Like him looking down, it's a gold toilet, $100,000. Stupidest things billionaires own. A gold toilet for $100,000. Like real easy to understand that, right? So think about that. Whatever your niche is, try to be simple. If you understand what your title is going to be, it'll really help you start thinking about the design for the thumbnail. And then from that point, you can start building these layers up. Think differently too. I think a lot of people sometimes when they put text on, they just grab a font and they just throw it on there and they go, there's my text if I'm going to use a text in his thumbnail. Step number 1, make sure you're picking a font that what we call sans serif. Do you know what that means? Sans serif? Sans serif means it shouldn't have a lot of extra squiggly lines. I'm sure you've seen like when like there are fonts that have like the T's go up and then over and then down and the bottom of the T has a line on the bottom, like all those extra little serifs, those little extra points to them. They make it harder to read when they're small. So I tend to use really simple fonts that are really straightforward, sans serif, not a lot of extra things. A T is just a line and a line, right? Pretty straightforward. And I try to use stuff that's easy to read. I don't go too crazy. If you look at the thumbnail I was working on here, let me pull this back up and let me get the size up. There's that word thumbnail. That's Impact. That font is called Impact. So when I look at that up here, I have my selection. If I use something that's harder to read, right, it loses all of its power. Also, if I use something that's too whimsical, it doesn't always work. I see sometimes people use these whimsical, like almost comic book style fonts, and I'm personally not a fan, unless it's like a comic book style thumbnail. Then it makes sense. But try to find things that aren't text like this. These fonts are hard to read, especially when it gets small, right? When it gets small, it's like, I don't know if I can read all that because it's got so many extra things. So find simple ones. You guys are probably all used to seeing, I think, the Mr. Beast font is Comica Axis, right? That's his font. That's the one you always see him using. So I don't use that only. I mean, I have it. I've used it once or twice, but I tend not to use it only because it's so identifiable as Mr. Beast. I'm like, I don't want people going, oh, you've got Mr. Beast font. But any font that you install on your computer, you'll have on your software. Same with your video editing software. People also ask me that a lot. Like, how do I get other fonts in Filmora? And it's like, well, just install them in your computer and then they'll be available on your software. Most of them. There's a couple exceptions. And there's places you can get them. Some of them are like, if you go online, there's some free places like Dafont, DAFONT.com has some free ones. Look around. Some of the ones I get are paid. If you want some nicer ones, you may have to throw a little cash down. You can license a font. Usually not too expensive. They anywhere from $10 to usually $50 for most of the ones. I use one called, what was it? One that I found that I thought was different called Quali. Let me see if I can find it. I think that's what it was made. I think it was called Qual. Yeah, there it is. This is one that I found. It was different. I hadn't seen anyone quite use this one. So I licensed that Quali one. It wasn't very expensive, but it was a different look. It has a couple of different feels to it than some of the other texts I've seen. And I like using that one sometimes too. So finding a font that works can be really, really important to the attitude of your thumbnail. I think a lot of times people forget that, thumbnails, fonts that you use in your thumbnails, they have attitude. Some of them are whimsical. Some of them feel very serious. Some of them feel a little more fun. Some of them can be, have a bit of a heavier, gloomy feel. So think about attitudes too, that, even when you're picking a font, don't just go, that's a cool font. If something feels a little more retro and there's something you're doing in the video that is talking about maybe retro gaming, it might make sense to use like a retro computer font or something. It can be helpful. It helps sell the image and the attitude that people would connect with. I'm with you, Heidi. Please do not use Comic Sans. It's a tough one, Comic Sans. That's that one that looks just like the speech in when you read a comic book, when they have the speech bubble. It looks kind of handwritten. It's not my favorite. Sans serif, not like cursive. Yeah, stay away from cursive. Also make sure you're spacing your font correctly. Yeah, that's another thing too. In any one of these things, you can change a lot of the font size and the spacing in between of how far the letters are apart. The way it's centered, all of those things. You can change all that. Try not, it's case specific, but make it readable, try to make it readable. Another thing that let me see, let me pull this up here. One of the things I also try to talk to people about is when you use your font, don't just put font on there. Don't be afraid to do something with the font. This font here, I wanted that depth, right? So what I did on the font for this one, let me open up the layer effects. Originally, it was just this and this, right? It doesn't quite pop. It's just, there it is. There's the color. And I see a lot of people do this. They just put their text on there and they go, okay, I'm done. I put the text on. And they'll either pick the wrong color font, one color for the font so that it feels weird, like red or something on top of it. It doesn't blend well. Like I really intentionally played with the color to match the back, to offset from the blue background. But then I put a little 3D on it. If you see when I do that, see how, let me make it a little bit bigger so you can see that a little bit more. But can you see how that font became, it makes it more three-dimensional. It sort of curves the edges and it looks like there's actually light hitting it, right? So I can see if I turn it off, it's flat. But I put a little three-dimensionality to it, and it gives it a little depth. It gives it weight. They actually feel like letters you'd see on a sign, popping out. They've got a little texture to them. They jump out a little bit. But then not only did I do that, I put a little outer shadow on it. See that? So now I've got a shadow behind it. Not full shadow. That's another mistake I see people do is they're like, yeah, man, huge shadow. And it's like, wow, too much. Dial it back. Just put a little shadow in there and let it kind of just pull off of the background a little bit. And, you can play with things like how soft that shadow is. Like I can go, okay, I wanted a really hard shadow. I usually try to increase the radius so it's a little softer, a little fuzzier, a little blurrier, right? And then you can do things like the offset, how far away that, right now it doesn't exist. I've got it down to, but the offset is how far away the shadow is. So I'll pull it back a little bit. Like that's too much, right? You don't want that much. I'm just like, I just want an offset just to make it pop a little off the blue. And there's intensity. You can make it more intense. I keep the intensity pretty low. And this is exactly the kind of thing we saw Nick doing in his thumbnail, but very, very lightly. It was very soft. I don't know if I'll be able to pull it back up really quickly. Probably won't be able to, right? But Nick had in his recent one, you saw that his let me see, it was just this one right here. He's got a very, very slight bit of shadow. You can see right under here a little bit that's making this pop a little bit. It's making that lettering pop just a little bit. And that little extra is allowing it to pull off the background a little bit. You almost wouldn't notice. You'd think if you looked at that quickly, it's like, all right, it's a Nick, it's a blue background, it's the YouTube logo and some words, right? But in fact, he's got a lot of things going on. He's even got, if you look closely right here, if my tool will open up, you can see this blue over here is darker than this blue here. So he's actually got what they call a gradient to it. So that, and I think he must have changed it. I think when I looked at this originally, the one that was, I think I was getting he must have done a little work on the thumbnail and changed it, because I think the original one I saw on the homepage didn't have as much gradient, but this has a gradient to it. So it's darker on this side, and then the background gets lighter as it goes that way. So just a real simple way to improve things. Gradient is really important. If you notice, if you look at the blue in the background that I used under today's, and again, I put this together in, whatever. I don't think I spent more than, 5 or 10 minutes throwing this one together. But as you can see here, what I did on that blue, let me turn this off. Here's the blue, right? Now the original blue, let me go to the layer effects. That was the blue. It was just blue, a block of blue. And I see a lot of people do this too. They'll just go, oh, I'm going to use blue. That should work, right? I'll just put some blue there and then I'll put some lettering on. But it's so flat and stale that it doesn't have any depth. It doesn't have any motion to it. It doesn't pull your eye. It doesn't do more than just slapping paint on a canvas and going, well, that's it. I don't need to blend. I don't need to use other colors. But in here, if you notice, when I did that blue, I actually added a gradient. That's the gradient there that I can control. Very light, like a heavy gradient would be super light. So I just put a light gradient so you can see the direction of the gradient I can change. You can go left to right. It can go right to left. It can go from the bottom up. I went from the top down, kind of felt like it worked for me. And then I added a little bit of shadow. I did an outer shadow, if you can see right behind it. So can you see how it now throws a little shadow onto that other circular bubble thing? So these layers I was building, even though it looks like just blue over those round circles, each of these things has a little bit more going on to create that depth and help them stand out from each other. So everything's not, I mean, it's two-dimensional, but I'm trying to figure out as much three-dimensionality as I can get into that thumbnail to make it pull forward and have a little more going on, right? So then by the time I add in that text layer up top, now you've got a bunch of stuff going on, right? You can see that there's depth in this thing, that there's got, it's me, and I've got an outer glow, and I've got a background that I've kind of put a little gradient on, and I've got shadows, and I've got the blue has a gradient. The thumbnails has a bit of 3D to it. It's got some shadows. So those shadows make things feel like they're a little closer. You don't have to put a ton of shadow, but it makes things feel like they're not sitting flat together, that things are layered, and it has that three-dimensional depth. So there's depth to your thumbnail. So think about doing those kind of things. Simple, create a little depth. Another thing, a lot of times what I'll do is I don't always stay full opacity with the text. Hey, super sticker from my pal Tinkerman Mick. Thank you very much, pal. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. It's good to see you. You learning anything? Most of the stuff you do is shorts. You don't use thumbnails, do you, Mick? You do make some long form content though. But think about this, guys, like even with your text, don't always feel like it has to be full value. Don't be afraid to go in certain situations to say, hey, I don't need this much strength. I can actually take the opacity. In this case, I needed it to be bright. Bright worked, right? But a lot of times I'll dial it back if it's too strong. If your text feels like it's just right in your face, doing things like putting a little shadow in it and dialing, you think you got the right color, but it's too strong. I wanted this one strong, but don't be afraid to dial back the opacity. That can be really, really effective. I do that a lot. Let me show you. I know a couple of videos on my channel that I've done it. I think I did it on Beat. It was the Beat Music, Daniel Batal, something. I don't know what they call it. The Beat. I can't remember what they called it. I'll find it. It was a Filmora thing that I did. Let me see. Beat. There it was. Beat Sync. Right in here, if you look at this thumbnail, it was an image that I got, and I did some reworking of that image. I three-dimensionalized the Filmora logo, and I pulled the depth. I put the word Filmora on there, and it's not just that it's gray. I actually have it in white, and it's dialed way back. The same with Beat Sync. I dialed those words, the font, back, so it's actually a little bit transparent. And I didn't go for big, bright whites. I was using an off-white, and then I dialed them back. And what that gave me in this thumbnail was the text sat better. It didn't jump way off. It balanced nicely with the image of the girl listening to, the music. But then if you look at the one above it, where I was doing a video about how to get, that bass pump effect in Filmora, I did a completely different textile with an inner glow and a white surrounding, so they actually felt like they were reliefed. I put a white surround and an inner glow, and I offset the words and put the speakers blaring at them and had the words kind of look like they were moving, like the sound of the speaker was pumping the words. So just simple things like that can make huge differences, thinking about how to choose your colors, choose your style, choose the way that you're going to do the you're gonna choose the color of the text, the style of the text, the depth that you're gonna put in your layers, and try to create something that's at the end of the day, when you look at it, just like quickly look at it, you get it. You go, oh, I know what this video is about, because you're not confusing it too much. I think a lot of times people try to stuff too many things in there. They're like, oh, I heard my face should be in the video, so I'm gonna put my face in. And then it's like a video that there's an image from that they're using that really should be drawing the person's eye, but then you've got the other person's face and you're like, there's all these things going on and it's hard to understand. And what we want is easy to understand. We want it simple. I mean, even with Mr. Beast, when he has all those people in, you saw like he did the last to remove your hand from the plane. He put himself bigger than everybody else, and he was off in the corner, and he was pointing back at the plane, right? He was like, haha, look at this way. So the idea of thinking about how to, when you put yourself in there, like in this one for today's live stream, you can see I put myself in there, but it was all looking up, like it draws your eye up. And when we were talking about the Mr. Beast video that had that cool thumbnail, Mr. Beast plane, let me see. Right? See what he did? It's very interesting if you look at that. He even shrunk his hand. I guarantee when he took that picture, his hand, he made it smaller. I bet his hand was actually bigger because it's got a ton of depth to it. He's smiling with his mouth open, but his hand, he added in there, and he probably shrunk it a bit so it didn't overlap the plane. It gives you a little bit more of a cartoony feel. But he's pointing back at all the guys on the plane. So the balance of all of this is like, hey, I'm in the thumbnail, so you recognize it's a Mr. Beast video, but then pointing back at the plane with the arm and keeping himself way off in the shot. Same thing he did in the one below, where it's like, I survived a plane crash. There he is with his shirt on, got the logo on his shirt, ripped shirt, looking exhausted, in a raft. This isn't a real image, you know that, but he's got the plane in the water, and it's on fire, and it's smoking. So the balance of all those things is really nicely balanced. You don't get pulled in one direction or another. You look at it and you go, oh, that I get it in a second. That's a guy in a life raft who looks like he just survived a plane crash. Well, that's the name of the video. It makes a ton of sense for it to work that way. So when you're thinking about this for your thumbnails, simple is always better. Start with simple. Don't start with complex. Thanks for these awesome techniques to consider. Bar Coke, they said that right? Thank you very much for the 333 super chat. I appreciate it, my friend. Let me see. I'm just trying to read some questions. I also heard you should never share your video. Wondering why. That's interesting. I've never heard that. You should never share your video. I say share your video any way you want. I don't know what that has to do with thumbnails. Let's see. Law, I just realized I got Premiere Pro and Adobe Photoshop mixed up in my previous post. I hate that. I hate when that happens. Adobe, well, it's close. It's made by the same company. One does video, one does images. And both have expensive fees that recur year after year. That's why I don't use them. Mick says, thanks, Daniel. I'm planning on getting back into longer videos. Been a bit of a standstill lately and lost motivation. Came here for the good vibes. Man, every time you're in the room, there's good vibes, Mick. Mick is one of my favorite creators. If you have any interest in learning how to do shorts, you should go to Tinkerman Mick's channel and look at his shorts, because he's one of the creators that is in my group. He's a guy who gets 10 million views on a short. Really, really smart the way he builds shorts for the platform. And he's got a great vibe, really great vibe. Let me see. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in here. Yeah, whole stream of thumbnails. Can't wait to get, like that's really what I wanted to stay focused today, is talking about thumbnails. Is that Photoshop? This one right here I'm using is called Affinity Photo. It looks just like, let me pull it back up. It looks a lot like Photoshop. You can actually change the layout of it and move the pieces around so that it acts like Photoshop, because things are detachable and you can put them wherever you want. But it's not. It's Affinity, which is AFFINITY. I think I put the link. Let me make sure I have the link. I can make sure I put it back in the chat. I dropped it in the chat already once. But they have a sale. This is $40, $40.99 right now because of Cyber Week. I don't have any affiliate links. I'm not in any way connected with them. But it's a great deal. I love it. So I try to recommend products that I think are good and that are affordable. Just started my newest channel this morning. My thumbnail that I choose is in studio is not showing up on my page. What's up? Oh, the thumbnail that you chose isn't showing up on your page. Could be a glitch from YouTube. There's been some weird stuff going on with some of the thumbnails not showing up the way they should. You also might want to clear your cache in your browser. Sometimes if you've got a different thumbnail there and your browser remembers that was the thumbnail it saw last time, it'll, like cookies and cache, C-A-C-H-E, cache. You want to delete your cache so that there's any images stored in there. It'll refresh to the newer image that's uploaded if you happen to look at it without the other thumbnail. Happens there every now and then. Don't let it freak you out. I've been trying to keep my thumbnail simple since joining your group. Yeah, that's awesome. I agree. I think that simple thumbnails are the way to go. I think if you can really get things easy, make it easy for the viewer to understand is something that Brian G. Johnson hammered into me for years. Make it easy for the viewer to understand in your titles, in your thumbnails, and have them work together. Your thumbnail and your title should really work together. In a way that if you look at it, it all makes sense. Like they complement each other. A mistake I see a lot of creators make is they'll make a thumbnail and it's just like their face, and then they'll put basically the entire title in there. Now, there's sometimes where using like text in your thumbnail makes a ton of sense, right? Like, I don't know, I could have done a million different thumbnails today to talk about thumbnails, but I thought, how do I do it? And I wanted to go, I think it'll be funny to have the word up in the sky, like, oh my gosh, thumbnails, the elusive thumbnails. That would make sense with, let's talk about, the name of the stream. Let's talk about making thumbnails for YouTube videos. So just think about how to keep it simple, and don't overwork your thumbnails. That's one of the things I see is people keep adding stuff in and adding stuff in and adding stuff in, and they don't create any layers. The background will be super bright and colorful, and then it's fighting with the foreground. Don't be afraid to take things and play with them so that you create that depth we're talking about. Let me go back over here. Like if I thought, I think this works, but if I thought that this layer here with that circles in the background, if I thought it was too much, if I thought it was fighting me, what I could do is I could add in a filter like a blur. And I go, let me try like a Gaussian blur, right? And I can take just that layer and I can go, let me dial a little blur into it, right? And let me blur it out. Maybe it's pulling too much, which is, one way to sort of pull something out and go, I'll dial it out. I'll just blur it out so it's there, but it's not super crisp, and that makes me pop a little bit more. I mean, maybe that's better. Maybe I'd like that. So I could do that. If I think those circles are fighting me too much, add a little blur to your background, right? Just blur it just a little bit like that and go, oh, well, that actually gets better. I think it works better, and it makes me pop a little bit more, so that the background even feels deeper, because when your eye sees a blurred background, what it immediately thinks is that's blurry because it's farther away. Right? That's when things are blurry, they're usually at a distance, like mountains or, something that's far away. You go like, it's kind of blurry. It's harder to see it, and that's how cameras work too, right? When you set the focal depth, the focal length of it, you'll have depth of field where you'll have something very close in focus. Like right now, right? My Christmassy backdrop right now. See how it's all a little blurry? You can't really see it in this shot. Let me go a little closer here. See how everything's a little blurry behind me? Like when I get closer to the camera, I'm crisper and the background's more blurry. So adding a little bit of blur into the background of your thumbnail mimics that thing that a camera does. And I'm not saying that, I want it to feel like a continuous shot, like, I wasn't, maybe I did. Maybe I wanted it to feel like I was standing in front of a wall of circles. But that creates more depth if I blur it out. So simple things like that can really add to what we're trying to do here. Hi, I like your Fillmore editing videos. I appreciate that, Mr. Minhas. I have a bunch on my channel for sure. What's Doug saying? I would not use your face for a gaming thumbnail. Focus on the gaming character, item, weapon. It's a great suggestion. That's one of the things to think about. I think, if you're putting your face in your thumbnail, you're leveraging something. Do people know you? Do they know you? Are you trying to make a branding play that makes a lot of sense? Do I see a super chat in there? Is that Mr. Blaine Locklear? I think it is. There it is. Good morning. Just saw you were live. I'm also alive. I just saw that you're alive on my YouTube homepage. Thanks for the great consultation recently, putting in the knowledge to work. All right, let's catch up, Blaine. I'm excited to see what's going on with the new channel. I'll talk to you soon, and thank you for the super chat. Blaine, another guy who's crushing it on YouTube, one of my coaching clients who's not only has one channel that's exploded, he's starting another one now. Where are you at, Blaine? I think you're over 100,000, aren't you? Yeah, I think you're over 100,000 now. If you're not, you should be. I have to look now. I have to look. Blaine, I have to see where you're at. I forgot. Oh, you're just about to hit it. Oh, 98,000 subscribers. Look at that. Wow, man, dude, right there. All right, we're going to have a party when you hit it. Can't wait. Getting very close now. So yeah, think about these things, guys, when you're doing these layers. And one of the things Doug was talking about gaming channels. Gaming channels. Blaine is one of those guys who he does unlocking stuff. He does real colorful stuff. He does teaches people how to unlock gaming systems, and jailbreak them and change, and update it, make them do crazy stuff. And modify them, and he's got great thumbnails. He's always got really bright colors and things work together. And when he chooses a font, it's very simple, and he puts it on an angle, things like that. Think about that. Easy hack with the arrow. He's got a little branding play he always puts in the upper left corner, so it's him. So instead of his face, he's got a little Blaine Locklear stamp he puts on the upper left corner, so that someone who sees it, I think I know it's him just from the colors, because I always see his and I'm like, man, your thumbnails look great. And he can drive some views, man. A month ago, 50,000 views, 3 months ago, 34,000. He knows how to drop some stuff that works well. But if you're doing gaming, right? Let me see. Let me go back to the homepage. Let's see what's trending. Let's go to, let's go right to, where am I heading to? Let's head over here. Let's go this way. And let's see gaming. Let's go into gaming. Let's see what's trending right now. That was interesting. I was up there. See that? This is one of the things you want to think about when you're looking at this page. Let me pull myself off of here for a second. When you're looking at this, let me pull myself off of here for a second. When you're looking at this page, right? Here's my home page. Let me get rid of the big X up top. Which thumbnails jump out at you? Think about colors. I think Jason Mann's thumbnail pops pretty good with the purple in the background. Look at some of the things he's doing. His face, he's got a glow around him. The very same thing that I did in my thumbnail. He put a little bit of a white outer glow. He cropped himself out. I can actually see a bit of the crop that was messy between his fingers. But he cropped himself out. He put a little bit of a white glow around himself. And he's pointing and looking over here. Ruined. Audience down. Subs down. Watch time down. Ruined. How to instantly ruin your YouTube channel, right? And it's very smart. See, it's like he did that thing. He put his face in there, but he's using all these techniques. There's a little glow. Pick it apart. Good color in the background. Interesting look. It's got a gradient too. See how the purple's darker up here and it's lighter down here, and it's got a little swipe to it. It's a little more purple, a little more bluish purple here. But he's got a shadow on Ruined. See that little dark outer shadow? He's got a white glow around the YouTube logo, and he's got a white glow around himself. He didn't do that on things like the watch time and the audience. He's got a darker thing because he doesn't want them to pop out as much. He wants that to be smaller and in the back. But really smart, right? I look at this and I go, whose thumbnail pops? I think of the 8 I got served right here, mine pops as much as Jason Mann's does. So think about that in context. When someone's scrolling through the homepage and you're trying to catch their attention, oh, that kind of jumps right out right there. I usually go for something that's simple and easy to see. If you see that, you go thumbnails. Oh, what's that about? Oh, let's talk about making thumbnails for your videos. Perfect. It's easy to figure out what's going on. Let me get over here. What do we got going on? I just saw this one. Sora and Shiro AMVs. Hey, Daniel, love your Filmora videos. I use it, and your vids are very helpful. Thank you with my AMVs. Keep up the great work. Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, I made a bunch of them. I thought about making a few more because they've changed the product so much recently that I might do some updates for a few people. It's changed a lot. It might be worth doing a couple more. Let's see. Hooked by Robin gave £5. Petition to get a stocking for Megan. For the backpack, if we have one, it's in the other room. You want her to be represented here? I'll have you know, Robin, that Megan picked all this. I just gave her the money. I said, go buy some decorations for the set. So she picked everything. So technically, everything behind me is all her choice. Thank you for all you do. John Denver's astrophotography and random Bleep. $2 super chat. Thank you very much for that, my friend. I appreciate that. Hey, and it's Alton in there, the Dogfather Barbecue. Thanks for all you continue to do for all of us, Brother Daniel. Thank you for all the great stuff that you do, Alton. I'm glad to see you healthy again and making content and growing the channel again. It's a great pleasure to make sure that everyone that I work with in group and I've done consultations with are out there and they're still crushing it. So it's really important to me. I do have to quickly take a second to thank the people who allow me to do these live streams on my channel.
This live stream is sponsored in part by StreamYard, live streaming made simple, and by Spreadshop, the #1 resource for all of your print-on-demand needs.
So if you're interested in making live streams that look like this, that allow you to share your screen and do picture-in-picture and do this kind of stuff nice and easy, try StreamYard. I've got a link down below that'll allow you to go in there and try it out. You can live stream on there for free for like 20 hours a month, which is great. And all of the merch and stuff that I create is through Spreadshop. If you want to start making your own merch, I got links down below where you can set up a Spreadshop for free. We like free. It's a good price. So yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? When you're looking at this, do you think my thumbnail kind of pops? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Do you think, looking at this page, this was right at the beginning, do you think that I'm, does my thumbnail seem to jump out a little bit? Is the color choice decent? Does it catch your eye? I think the two in the upper left, for me, I think we have the strongest ones of the 8 that I'm looking at. But that idea of just trying to get something that jumps forward, I think is important. Like, just make sure that it's pops. Hey, we got a couple thumbs up. You don't have to do. You can say no. I won't be hurt. Baking free off grid. Genealogy says yes. Megan saying yep. I'm getting a yep. Megan, you have to say that. Hashtag the yard. Now let's do a giveaway. Thanks. I appreciate. Yeah, I think everyone kind of feels that. Decent thumbnail pops to me. Right. It's nothing crazy. It's just simple. It's me looking up at the word thumbnails. But it was just something that I want to be able to catch people's eye and go, what's this video about? It looks like he's talking about thumbnails. And I thought I wanted to do it in a different way that wasn't just, the different angle of me. So yeah, it looks like, we even got a rock in there. Look at Alton giving me the rock fist up there. I've got the demon fist. Yeah, so those simple things like that, think about that when you're making your thumbnails, simplifying. I want to find let me see what I can do for, we were talking about gaming and I was meant to click over to the gaming section. Let me do this. When it comes to gaming, think about, if you're a gaming channel, think about what you can do to really jump. Like, I like this thumbnail here because it's a very simple image. I don't know that I love the font in here, but I can read it. It's still readable, Platinum Journey, and that might be the font of the actual game that they're using, so it would make sense if it is. If you look right here, I think these ones are genius. Look at that. Extra punctuation, great imagery and balance. Bad games are better than bland games, extra punctuation, right? And it's just like, it's just a very colorful, well-balanced thumbnail. If you look at the background, it's doing that same thing, right? It's not just a yellow background. It's got some stuff going on back there. He's got some font, miscellaneous font back there, right? And you can see it's got a gradient. This part of the yellow is brighter than the outside. The gradient goes to like an orange, and they've actually got a little bit of that orange layered over even the characters. See how it layers over there? So there's actually a little bit of, it looks like almost like a vignette in orange that goes over the whole thing. Just smart, but not over the font. Another great one here, if you look at this, it's just a simple character, straightforward. That's another great one right there. This is another one using that same imagery and a Balan Wonderworld. Nice and simple, very bright, well balanced, a little bit in the corner because you can see the balance points here. They were like, I got a character that's pointing over this way to present the words, but there was a little negative space here, and they put a little bit of stuff in there to help balance it out so that these balance really nicely. Smart, big, bright. And if you look, at some of these simple thumbnails, look at 4.9 million views, 5.8 million views, 365,000 views, 396,000 views, all in the last year to 10 months, 9 months. Really, really simple stuff. I think that's one of the things that I can't stress enough. The easier it is that you can make the viewer understand your thumbnails, the better. And I don't mean simple should be boring. Just make it simple and understandable, all right? That's the most important thing. KMH family, how you doing, my friend? Hey, Daniel, thanks for always dropping gems. We just got offered a partnership with Filmora. Thought of you. Your Filmora content has been so helpful. Thank you again. Yeah, Filmora is a weird beast. They've been doing weird. I was their very first brand ambassador, but they started on a very, I'd be cautious. They're trying to get everybody, even if you don't have a video editing channel, don't do deals with video editing software companies, because that's not your target audience. Even I stopped working with them because they were reaching out to people who were, they had a really good offer for me. I just didn't want to do a sponsorship anymore, but they reached out last year to a whole bunch of people, and they were trying to get fairly good sized creators to work for very low money. I wasn't a big fan of that. So I wish you luck in whatever you choose, but thank you for the super chat. I hope everything's going great on your channel. Let me see some of the questions. You're going to be looking at some of our thumbnails. I'd be happy to. Crispy, let me see if I can find your channel. I'll take a look. If you'd like me to take a peek at what you got going on there. Let me see if I can find it. Crispy. Let me see. I got to make sure I see your avatar so I can find your channel. Crispy. It looks like Tom and Jerry mouse. The mouse from Tom and Jerry. Is that Jerry? I can't remember who's who. Crispy. I'm not seeing the channel. Let me see if I can find it. Crispy. Let me see if I can. I'd have to do it from, let me see if I can pull it up. Megan, can you see if you can find, feel free to drop your, the link to your channel in the chat, and we'll pull it from there. And I'll see if I can find it. A few of your thumbnails. In the meantime, let's see, can I get, Sarah and Shiro's AMVs? Let me see if I can find that one. That's probably a private chat. You found it? Thank you. Hold on a second. Let me go with this one. Sora and Shiro, AMVs. Not AMBs. Daniel can't type. AMV. Let me see. Let me take a look. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen. So this is Sora and Shiro's. Let me take this off so we can see this a little bit better. Yeah, not bad. I like simple. You know, they're simple. Here's some problems you have right off the bat. See all this negative space? This is not optimized for a full 16:9, so you've got all these black lines here. Wasted space. This one here, completely wasted space. So there's all this negative real estate you left, and that's a fuzzy image. I like this one better. I think that's a better one because it's a little easier to see. Try not to just do screen captures. I Am Human is kind of cool. This one right here, I think is actually kind of nice. I like the font and everything going on in here. I think just make sure, the thing that I'm missing here is this one's a good one too. I think that's a good thumbnail. It's funny too, the ones that I like, look, I go, that's a good thumbnail, and it drove 631 views. It's not always just the thumbnail that does that, by the way. It's, it's title and thumbnail together. I want to live Demon Slayer AMV. Good thumbnail, right? I like it. Just looks, it's strong, it's colorful. Great shot that you chose for that one. Simple works. But you remember that when you also want to make sure that your title works together with it, right? Like, I don't know that the viewer understands what hell yeah AMV means. So make sure that you're building titles that make someone want to click. This one clearly did with the thumbnail. Some of these other ones, not so much. Make sure you're not leaving dead real estate like that around. That's really important. What do we got here? Do you mind checking my gaming thumbnails out? Oh, Codiations. How you doing, pal? I feel as a graphic designer, I make them too pretty and not for my audience. That's a real thing, my man. Like, there's sometimes what happens is you can get a little too over the top when you've got graphic skills. Let me pull this up real quickly, my man. Oh, thank you for the super chat, by the way. I really appreciate it. Let me see what I'm looking at. These look pretty good to me. I like the imagery. I like that it's got some depth to it, right? Like the depth you have of the coloring for the gingerbread man up front definitely stands out against the gingerbread person in the back, and that's got depth. I like the color choice on the text works well. Be careful with because they're cropping now, be careful with these because they're rounding the corners. If you're going to outline it, to me, it looks funny. These would look better if you're going to do an outline, start rounding the corners on your outlines, because you've got an outline here, an outline here, an outline here, and all the corners look a little funky. So start putting a radius on those, outline there too. I don't mind the outline. That's a great one. Back from the Dead and the arrow pointing, and you've got like the sort of character there. I think those are great. I think they're pretty strong. Be cautious. I love that all the text is very readable. Even on the huge update that uses a font that's more of a script font, it's very readable. We were right. Huge update, we were right. They're very readable. So, like I said, I try to use simple fonts, but you've made them readable, which is great. I like the way you're putting the black around the text so that they definitely pop out. See all the black that he's using here so that it stands out from the background. He's using a whole black trace. Not only does it go around the letters, but in between. Do you see how it's all black? Really great choice, smart choice there. And one thing that people don't always get, who's noticing, what's the one thing beyond the font and the cool thing? Tell me some things that you guys are seeing in this text. There's some very obvious things he's doing to make the text work. Yell it out in the chat what you think is going on with like this text, what's happening in that text, what's happening in that text, what's happening in that text. See if you can spot some of the things that are happening in the text to make the text work better for these thumbnails. Can anyone see it? Let me just run over here really quickly. Gradients, good one right off the bat. Gradient, that was one that Crispy noticed right off the bat. Exactly, that is gradient. If you look at the yellow, it's yellower up top and it's gradient to more of an orange near the bottom, right? So he's putting when he's using a color, a strong color, he's putting gradients in that blue. See, it's more of a sea blue here and it gets more into a sky blue, like a little darker blue, maybe an ocean blue down near the bottom. So gradient here. Anyone else? What else has he got going on? Texture, there's a bit of texture, but I think it's mostly the font choice he's using. But there is I guess you could say that like with the huge update. What else are you guys seeing? Double colors, big one right there. A lot of people forget how to do this. They put text on and they use all the same color font. And what happens is it's hard to read. So he did huge update in the blue gradient. Goes to white, and then right goes back to the blue gradient, which really helps separate and make that text readable. What else do you guys see in here? Borders. Yeah, the border. He's got the black all the way around it, 100%. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? What do you got? What are the things I want to talk to you about? Size of the font. Have you noticed that? Look at that. The size, he's got the same font for we, were, and right, but not only he's made the word right bigger, right? Size of the font matters a lot. If you're going to use several different words in your thumbnail, don't just sit there and put all the same color font, write the words and stick it on there. Find a way to design it so it looks like it's got gradient, it's got depth, it's got some outline. Use different colors to create separation. White incoming, then frost meta is in a different color. And even the way he overlaps it, he lets that G come over the frost, the T and the frost. Same here on sneak preview. He just lets the S and the K and the bottoms of the P and the K and the exclamation point just dip into the word below it. That creates depth. It creates depth. So you can see the outline of the word peak and the outline of the K goes into the yellow. See what's got black around that? Smart choices right there, my man. I think that's just really, really smart in general. That when you start doing this, I think they look good. I think your thumbnails are strong. Are they a little busy? Test them out. I think what I would recommend is make sure, you can have a great thumbnail, but it just doesn't quite do the trick. And you go, well, I don't understand. It was a strong thumbnail. I thought it looked great, but looking great, exactly what you're asking, and then being effective are two different things, okay? The best thumbnails are the thumbnails that are effective, meaning you put them up there and you actually start winning the click and people are stopping and they're going, I'm going to watch. And sometimes that is a matter of simplifying. Sometimes it looks really, really great, but when it gets shrunken down, it doesn't quite do what you want it to do. So I would be testing, find some of your videos codiations that have been performing well for a matter of months. Find something in there that's driving several hundred views, and that's been doing that for like, a month or 2 months or 3 months. It's kind of got a consistent pattern. And then try testing out a different thumbnail. Just run a different thumbnail for a week but go very different with it. Sometimes when people say they're thumbnail testing, they'll do such a small change that it's like photo hunt. It's like I put the two thumbnails together and I have to stare at them to that game Photo Hunt, where the two images are very close, but you have to find the differences. Don't photo hunt, people. If you're going to thumbnail test, do something very different so that it really does give the chance, to give you something very different, a different experience, and see if you can push towards something like that. Hold on a second. I did find in the private chat the very first person who asked. Let me grab his channel because he did ask, the first one I saw. So let me put that one up here. Give me 1 second. And there's some super chats in there. I have to put up there. Hold on. Copy. Let me get this up here. I will find it. I promise. Paste and go. Okay. Let me go full screen here. Let's see. Thumbnails. New channel. 45 subscribers. Looks like 2019. Let me see how many. Yeah, it's still pretty new. 11 months ago was your oldest video. I like it. I like the simplicity of these. You know what I think the problem is? I think these are pretty simple. I think I get them. I think I know what it is. Some of the titles I don't love. I think you have to make sure that there's giving people a reason to click your video. It's not just a cool thumbnail. I kind of like that one, right? The end game of Sonic Generation sucks. Like that might make me click. But I don't know if the thumbnail screams that. He's got kind of a sad face. It kind of works. I'm trying to see what's been working on your channel. Let me see. Newer ones seem to be working. We're Multiversus Pros. That one drove 552 views. Mario 3D on Run is pure chaos. That was an interesting title. Pretty good. Yeah, I think it kind of works. I think they're fairly simple. Make sure that if you're doing a gaming channel, any channel, that you're learning how to trigger your audience. Make sure that you're not just going, oh, I'm playing a game or I'm doing commentary. Make sure you're really paying attention to what works and what doesn't work. And when you make a video in a certain way and you go, that drove more views, my audience seems to like it when I talk about this or I do this angle about this conversation, it works. So it's always topic, title, thumbnail, structure, execution, timing, and competition. So it's how many did I just count? Topic, title, thumbnail, timing, structure, execution, competition. It's like 7 or 8 things there. Those all weigh in, right? Like if you can make the best video in the world about Christmas lights that you can buy, and if you put it out in July, probably not going to get a lot of views because no one's buying Christmas lights. So timing, competition, if you're making a video that 1 million other people have made and they're already performing, YouTube is going to keep serving those higher performing videos. So a good thumbnail is not going to get you there. We're trying to learn all those things. Today we're talking specifically about thumbnails, but it really is all the things work together. Topic, title, thumbnail, timing, structure, execution, competition. Think about all those things when you're putting them together. But in general, I think, you're off to an okay start. You got 45 subscribers. Think about giving the people a reason to want to come back to your channel week after week. Yeah, I see you're jumping around a bunch of different games. One of the things is like if people aren't interested in whatever you're talking about that week and they were interested in what you talked about in the previous week, find which things connect and maybe stay with it for a while so you can start to build some momentum on your channel. Going Crazy in the Kitchen gave me, I have no idea what that denomination is, but there's 50 of them. Thank you very much. I know my faults a little better already, but not enough. Can you recommend some more software than the ones you mentioned? There's a lot of great software out there. It depends on what device you're using. I personally think Affinity Photo is the way to go. I think I don't push people towards other software. There is some free stuff out there that you can get, like GIMP. But it's got a hard user interface. It's got a steep learning curve. I think if you're going to buy, I'm going to stick with my recommendation. I think that Affinity Photo is as strong as Photoshop. And if you've used Photoshop, and I have, you'll agree, you'll go, yeah, that's pretty gosh darn great. And it's $41 right now. Let me copy the link and let me just put it here. Hold on, this should probably do it. I only need that portion. Let me put it in the chat in case you missed it. That's the one I'm using today. And it's a software that you buy it once, you have it for life, and it'll do everything you need it to do. You'll never have to go buy another one. Learn that software, and you'll always have the ability to make great thumbnails, make anything you need. If you need to make things for your videos and you need to, create some images that you're going to use in your videos, great for that. All kinds of packaging. You can do channel art with it. It's really fantastic. So I'm going to stick with that. Affinity Photo was something you started using recently. Yeah, stick with it. Plus, they have great instructional videos on their website. Like, they really show you how to use the software, which I love. Their videos are great in teaching you how to use it. I'm sorry, I just shut someone off. I got to get back in here. Super sticker from Thunder SAR, 7 SAR. I don't know what SARs, but thank you very much. I appreciate the super sticker. Could you look at my thumbnails next? Yeah, I did, right? Did I just look at them? Okay, good. I got you. Codiation said, yeah, I need to book a consultation, man. Channel is struggling, which is why I changed the last 3 thumbnails. Yeah, it's, you know, it's always more than thumbnails, right? Anytime you want to book, danielbatal.com, you can go right there. I usually have some sort of a sale going on in one way, shape. I think I still have my Cyber Week sale going on right now. Yeah. So you can book 90 minutes for $199, which is usually $349. Yeah. So a good time to book. You can, you know, book now and book it for down the road or whatever. But I'll leave that up there for the rest of the week. Let me see. What, did I miss any of these other super chats in here? Am I pretty good? Let me see. I'm just making sure I got it. Let me see what's happening. Hello, I just subbed and clicked the bell. Hey, great. I appreciate that. Was it my shirt that was working? Did you read the shirt? And then you went, I got it now. Subscribe to my channel. I've gotten much better at thumbnails, I think, but seeing yours, I've got a ways to go. Yeah, just keep working on it. What I'll tell you, I want to look at your thumbnails now that you said that. Let me pull yours up. Organic gardening in North Carolina. That is very specific channel. You organic gardening in North Carolina. Rolina. I'll get it in there. Okay, let me take a peek. All right. Let me share this so we can talk about it a bit. But channel art needs work. I wouldn't know exactly what that is. But let's talk about thumbnails today. Okay, here's one of those things that I talk about. Too much text and poor choices of colors, like this yellow that you've got going on here with the red around it. It's too much. So what I would tell you is I like the images, right? You know, I like the image you got going on here. That's pretty good. I like the image of you. There's some pretty good things, you pointing at stuff. That's not bad. I like some of the images of you are fun. But I think the text is kind of all over the place and it's too much. Like my eye is going, I got to read charge, right? It's just too much. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So what I would think about is simplifying. I don't love yellow with red text because what happens is it gets harder to read as the thumbnails get smaller. It gets more blurry and it almost looks like your eyes are fuzzing out, especially ones like down here. This is an older one, I get it, but that's a tough font and it's in yellow. So that little one right here with the puppy, like I would have a hard time reading it. Garlic is better. That's better with the black outline. That yellow, it works a little bit more. And plus it's a simple image of garlic. I'm like, well, that's a pretty good one. I kind of understand that. So just watch the amount of text you're using, watch the balance of it. Like you've got so much text in this here that all I see is your face. It looks like you're getting pushed out of the thumbnail. There's some vegetation behind you, but then you expect me to read all of this to understand what this video is about. It's just got a lot going on. Simplify. If you want to understand what simple thumbnails look like, someone who was in here earlier, Hooked by Robin, she's in our group. She's fantastic. Hooked by Robin, she has a crocheting channel. And when you look at her thumbnails, they are gorgeous and they are simple. If you were into crocheting, you'd be seeing this stuff come across your page and your YouTube homepage or your feed, and you go, I know, look at what this is. This would totally simple, really cool pictures, great color, simple, easy to understand. When she does something specific to, like right now, she's got on the main page, we're going into Christmas, she's got the crocheting these 2 snowmen. Look how great that thumbnail is. One closer, picture of it closer, and one pushed back. Really, really smart thumbnail with the blue background. So the color choice she used to make sure that pops, really smart. And look at the kind of views that Robin can drive to a crocheting channel. 1 day ago, she's already got 16,000 views. 8 days ago, 39,000 views. 3 weeks ago, 114,000 views. 4 weeks ago, 135,000 views. A month ago, 183,000 views. People, trust me, make great videos, keep it simple, keep the titles compelling and readable, and keep the thumbnails understandable. It'll be so much better for you, I promise. We've got some stuff here. Coffee fund for you and me. Oh, thank you, Heidi. That was really great. $20 Canadian. Well, and I have to do the trans. I got to do that. Do you have a stronger dollar than we do right now? I can't tell. I don't know where we're at. Usually I'm a little ahead. Thank you very much. I will absolutely buy myself a coffee and Megan a hot chocolate because she doesn't drink coffee. So, would you mind taking a peek at my simplified thumbs? Pixel Pia, on your channel, Pia, because I know you have two channels. I came across the other one the other day in whatever we were doing, and I was like, oh, I didn't know it was you off the top of my head, which I should have. Let me take a quick peek here, though. Let me pull it up, Pia. Simplified, you broke 1,000 subscribers. That's fantastic. Let me get myself out of the shot. Yeah, I think they're pretty simple. What I would tell you, Pia, is be careful. See how, I get what you were doing here. This is probably an image that you licensed with that newsletter thing. But it's small and hard to read. That's one of the things I'd watch out for. Watch direction too, right? Because now you want me to read this, but then you've got her pointing over here at something that I can't even read. I would much rather, if I were going to rebuild this thumbnail, right? Let me see. Maybe I can do it. Let me hold on a second. Let's rebuild. Can I rebuild this thumbnail real quickly? I would have said, hold on. How big can I make this? Maybe I can steal it a bit. If I were going to rebuild that thumbnail, I'm going to have that mark in there though, right? Hold on. Let me try this. Let me grab it and let me bring it in. Let me open up a new, let me see if we can rebuild it real quick. Let's do a new one. Oh, that's another thing too. Let me talk to you guys really quickly. When you're making a thumbnail for YouTube, the correct aspect ratio is 1280 by 720p is what they turn out to be. That's 16 by 9, but don't make them 1280 by 720. Make them 1920 by 1080, and then YouTube will downscale them. They'll look more crisp. If you make them in 1280 by 720, they tend to be less crisp. You can go to a maximum of 1920 by 1080, full HD, and then upload them, and you'll get a little more crispness out of them. Okay, let me open up this. Let me see if I can make this happen. I may not be able to. It might be too fuzzy. Well, not there. Hold on. Let me do a paste. Did I have a paste? Did I grab it? Yeah, maybe I did. There we go. Let me grab that thumbnail. Let me see if I can steal it. Who says you can't work on the fly like this? Let me do this. This is funny. I just stole it. I got a timestamp I have to get rid of. I would have said, let me get this here. Let me get that kind of built out to where I think it should be. Also, the balance of this whole thing, I probably would have said, how big can we make her? I think she should be even bigger. I'm going to take that, and you started with, the original thumbnail was like this. I think the balance is a little bit off. It's something like, that's closer to the actual size, right, of a thumbnail. It's moving the whole thing. All right, something like that. Let me start with on the layers. I'm going to double that layer. So I have the original to look back on. Let me turn it off. Okay, so what I would probably do, let me lock this one so I don't lose it and screw with it. What I would probably do with this, because it says easy email templates, let me go a little bigger so you can see it a little bit better. It says easy email templates. What's happening here is it's pulling my eye in too many different directions, right? She's pointing over there, and you got easy email templates to the left. So my eye's being pulled around. So a real simple thing I would probably do is I'd go, well, she's the one. Why don't I see that she basically has an easy email template? I go like, that's kind of cool. That's kind of neat, right? And she's holding that's an email right there, but all that text doesn't do anything for me. So I'd probably do something like maybe move her over. Let me get her a little bit bigger and move her over, right? Something like that. And then what I would do, let me just get her cropped out here a little bit if I can. I'm going to pull down the size of this. Let me see if I can do something with it. So let's get her. I'm going to select just her. Here we go. Something like this. Something like that. Let me get her hand. A little bit of the orange in the background makes it a little tricky, but you think you get, whoops, you get what's going on. Let me refine this a little bit. Let me get her hair refined. Get in there, hair, something like that. That's what I need right now. I'm going to apply. It's a little janky still. Let me just get her hair a little bit better. So I just want her. Let me go this way with her. So I've got her now. Now I'm going to invert this selection, and let's get rid of everything else. I'll just erase everything else on that layer. Activate the layer and erase everything else. Okay, now I've got her. So now I've got her. I can deselect. I think that's kind of cool. Like it was talking about an easy email template. So let me deselect. That's kind of cool. I like her. I thought she kind of worked. Let me just get rid of some of that extra orange that's hiding in between her hand really quickly. It's a little bit of run and gun here, but you get what I'm trying to do. Let me get rid of some of this orange right there, around here, something like that. All right. So we've got her. That's kind of cool. But all this text is throwing me off now. So that text throws me off. I'm like, huh, why don't we, if she's going to point to a giant thing, I think that hurts you. I probably would have said, well, why don't we just get rid of all this stuff that's in here and change what she was holding, right? If I can do that. Let me do this. Let me just select. Let me see if I can just select her a bit, if it'll let me. Her hand. Let me see if it'll let me do her arm. Okay. And let me get a little small. I just want to be able to get rid of I want to be able to get the background image, have her pointing to whatever it is she's pointing to. That's kind of it, right? So I like that. What I don't like is this. I don't like this this email thing. Let me invert the select. Let me copy that. I'm going to edit. I'm going to let me just copy what I've got selected, and I'm going to paste that into a new layer. So I now got just her hands. So if I turn that off, I've selected, I've recreated her hands. So now what I can do is I can deselect that, and I'm going to get rid of that entire thing that you're holding, that she's holding right there, because I think we can do something better. I know I've got her hands copied, so I'm not worried about erasing them right now. Let me pull this. Let me slide that over right about to where she is, which is right about there, kind of. And let's erase everything that's in her hand. So I'm going to get rid of the whole email thing, because I think you could have, it's cool. You probably found it online and went, oh, that's cool. She's pointing at an email or something, but I think it hurts you. I don't think it's really doing what we wanted to do. So now you've got the girl, and you can insert like a new block of whatever you want. You could just take a shape and go, oh, I know. Let me deselect. Let me just make a new sign. I want to have her pointing at something that I want in here and balance it out a little bit. Right? And see if you can do something like that. Now you can create whatever you want because you're in control. So she's got a little bit of junk still attached to her fingers. Give me 1 second. This is very run and gun, but we can kind of, wrong one, wrong layer. Should be this one. Let me just get rid of a little bit of this, but you get the idea. Clean this up. If you had the full res, I pulled this off. So you got her pointing at the thing. Now you could be saying originally what you wanted was the original, let me pull that ahead of it so I can see it. The original thumbnail was, her pointing at a lot of words that was hard to read, but the thumbnail wanted to say easy email templates. I probably would have put the text. So if she's going to point at it, well, let's get the text in there and let's just go, easy email. I can't even read. The type is so small right now. Let me stretch it. Email. There we go. Now I can read. Email templates, if I can write this. So I would do that. Remember we talked about different size fonts? Let's start with that one. Let's get a better font. What do I like as a better font? Maybe something like a Free Sans. That's kind of cool. Or maybe that Cora one that we talked about that I showed you that I purchased is kind of a cool. Let me see if I can find it for you. Quali, that's what it is. Easy email. Let me take that first. Really simple layout, right? Like, okay, easy email. Let's get that kind of balanced in there, up there. And then let's put another, I'm going to duplicate that and then change the text to it. So I'm going to duplicate that and I'm going to do template, templates. But I'm going to stretch this. I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger so that the two layers of text kind of balance a little bit better. Easy email templates, something like that. And I might even say, like, all that cap might be too much. Maybe see how that's it feels like it's fighting. So maybe I would go easy email templates and go, that might work a little bit better if I do that. Do I love the font? I don't know. It's all right. But I would find the balance of these, and then I would start doing it that way, and then change the colors of some of these things. Like when we were talking about before, using different colors for some of the fonts can really make things stand out. Kind of like a green and black. She's got a black suit on. That's kind of cool. Why don't we place, let's go with that same bubbly background. I'll stick that in there. Let's put that, lower the layer so it's more behind her. Easy email templates. Hold on, I got to get, it's so huge. Let me get that thing a little smaller. squish the bubble layer back so the bubbles aren't so big. There we go. Okay, so now I've got it. Let's get big again. So now she's kind of in there. Let's see if we can get the kind of balance of that all working together. I don't want to move the background, but all of that, let's select all those layers and move her over just a little bit. Are they locked? Yeah, it's locked. Hold on a second. Okay, now I can slide this all over a little bit. Get her balanced in the thumbnail a little bit better. Cool. See, that works a little better for me. And now I can start going, well, what do I want to do? You could put that logo that you had from the other one. Was that what that was? This Cloud HQ. That's something you could say, hey, I'm going to stick that in there because I want them to know is that if that's the program you're using, right? Then you go, well, that Cloud HQ thing is important. Maybe I do want a little bit of that orange in there now. I don't know. Let me go edit, copy that, flattened, and let me paste it back into this one. Edit, and I'll paste. There we go. Select, and I'll deselect, and I can do whatever I want with it. But you see what I'm doing here? I'm just starting to put these layers in places where they make more sense, right? Maybe I want this to be maybe not quite that big, but start building out this way, Pia, right? So instead of having a thumbnail that is just sort of, it's all over the place and it pulls my eye this way and that way, try to get it back together so that you're pushing towards a certain thing, and you can change all of these colors and decide, what needs to be, what works. Is this, start doing all the things we talked about that I showed you with my other one is, start changing the layers so you create some depth. We can do a color overlay on the back. Let's go with the green. I think the green was kind of cool. Let's pull it way back so we'll have like a green bubbly thing in the background, just slightly green. Could be kind of cool. We could take that whole layer and we could do what I told you before, like let's blur it out a little bit so that the background isn't so bright, just kind of has a little bit of a blur, whatever you want to do. Like, and just start working them out so they're simple and easy to understand. And start using these elements and start balancing a little more. This is like rough, but you see what we're working on here is trying to get the direction pointing towards the thing, right? Make sure that the eye is drawn towards, this is probably too big. I'd probably pull that off to the side, like over here or something. But I'd start balancing this out and see if I can get this to work better so that she's pointing at the words that you want, play with the font, play with the colors, and get something that makes a lot of sense so that as this all comes together, it's simple, it's easy. And then you can start changing out this yellow block for maybe a little something, not just a block of yellow, but you can start adding in some pieces to it so that it starts pushing your eye in the right direction. Color choices are huge. I usually start, find the right image, put what I want there. If you got her pointing at it, make sure she's pointing at the words that you want people to read, not to point at something that they can't understand. It's really important. Wouldn't mind if you took a peek. Oh, I already saw this one. There we go. I did take a peek. So that's what I think I would work on, Pia, is just, I think the problem here that I'm seeing is that it's pushing, you got people pointing towards things, but then in this one, the text is really small. So it's hard to read. And I've got this thing blown up, huge size, 400% right now on my browser. So on a regular size, it's just hard to do. This one's better, but see, just a few steps. I'm not sure I understand that one so much. I love this thumbnail here, Pia. The 7 steps to security, that was really well done. I get it. It's like a guy trying to hack into your computer. I think that's a better one. I think it's a better thumbnail. But just try to find, I like the simplicity of it, but I think what you really need to do here, Pia, is just try to get these to the place where they're easy for the viewer to understand. There's Justin. Hey, thanks for the $20 super chat. Wouldn't mind if you took a peek at my thumb, the ugly truth about lawyers' fees in car accidents. Hold on a second, Justin. I've built some for Justin. Jay-Z helps. Let me find you really quickly. Let me see. Let me go to your channel. Is this a new one you just published? The Ugly Truth. Let me find it. Hold on a second, pal. Let me find the one that you're asking about. The Ugly Truth. I should be able to just type that into your channel and find it, hopefully. Ugly Truth. Okay, let me pull that up. Here we go. Here's yours. Let me pull this out of here real quickly. Where is Justin? I can't pull it up. There we go. Oh, you've already pulled it out. Thanks, Megs. The Ugly Truth about claims. It's not bad. I think that's a pretty good one. I like the idea of the car accident, the guy holding his neck and someone throwing money in their face. I think that's solid, right? I think it works really well with the with the title, The Ugly Truth About Whiplash Claims and Settlements, because the title's great. Like, wow, what's the ugly truth? I mean, is it they don't pay, they do pay? It's got 99,000 views from 6 years ago. It's done okay. I don't know if you just recently updated it, but I think that works. You know, I think if it works, go with it. On you, I like some of the simplicity of yours, Justin. I know that some of these. Let me see. Go to the popular ones. Yeah, like this one. I think. I built this one for you, right? You had something originally, and I rebuilt it. So this was. I like it when it's very easy to understand. Like when I did this one for you, this wasn't too bad. We redid it to 78,000 views. I used a little glow. I think the balance is one of the things you want to work at. What I don't like about, the green one. I'm sorry. Did I miss one? The Ugly Truth About Whiplash. Didn't he say that? Oh, sorry. There I am. I'm yapping away. Hold on. Let me change. Jesus. The old man can't do anything right. I looked up The Ugly Truth and that one came up. The Ugly Truth About Lawyers' Fees. This one. The green one. Okay, see, that one I don't like as much. See, and I think anyone who's in the chat, it's like your face, it's, the money, it's the gavel, it's green. It's too basic for me. I like them when they're, I like them. I don't dislike simple, but that gradient green doesn't work for me. It's almost, and then the white letters on the huge block of just black is very rudimentary for me. So it feels like it's like an unfinished. It feels like what I was doing with Pia's. Like I just started to do something and I never finished it. I didn't get the depth. I didn't really think about the colors. You used a huge block of black. It's not very well balanced. The amount of black that you have to the left and right of these words as opposed to the top and bottom, it's tiny sliver. So the balance is wrong. This is way over in the corner. It's drawing. I'm looking here and then I'm reading here, but then there's this thing. So my eye's getting pulled all over the place. I'm a much bigger fan of stuff that makes it easy to understand. The one above it I like more, right? Here's a hand coming in with a stack of money, handing it to a guy who's holding his neck, and there's a wrecked car in the background. The problem with this one is I probably would have changed. You didn't do anything with the layers, meaning that this car is just as crisp as the person. It's just as crisp as the hand, so there's no depth to it. I probably would have muted that background out a little bit. This green one, I think you can do more with this. It's too simple. I like simple, but it's not compelling. It looks rudimentary. Don't let your thumbnails be so rudimentary. Like this is a much better one if you ask me, because it's got a little bit of a, you've got a little bit of some shadowing in here. You got the two cars and the green words dead center. You've got a nice alignment here, car, and the words that draws my eye in. Again, it's always about topic two. I like this kind of feel better. This was 5 months ago. It's already driven 13,000 views. So those are the kind of things I say, Justin, what I would probably recommend is go to your own channel and look at what's been working that isn't 6 years old, right? It's hard if you go by popular. What's newer? I'm looking 6 years, 6 years, 6 years, 6 years. What's something that's not 6 years old? What's something more recent? And I go, oh, this was 2 years ago. That did pretty good. And it was just $210,000 in green, settlement in white. You've got a little shadowing, a little black outline on that, and two kind of simple cars crashing into you, and you got a little gradient in the background. Yeah, that kind of simple worked for you, so that wasn't bad. I think it told the story a little bit better. So I would lean on the things like that, Justin, that seem to connect. I don't dislike simple, but if you're supposed to be a lawyer and you're really trying to sell, make sure that you've got your thumbnails look like they don't look amateurish. Simple is cool, but don't look amateurish. Make sure you're learning how to create solid gradients and layers and using more than just color, find patterns that you can put in there to, as you could saw when I started just playing around with the layout for Pia's, I didn't put any gradients or any patterns. So it felt kind of amateurish, and that's what you want to avoid. You want them to look decent, right? You want them to look, if you're going to build them, then make sure that they look polished, that they look like someone did them with intent. Let's see, Crikolo, $10, whatever that is. I appreciate the super chat, my friend. That means a lot. I didn't know if you wanted me to look at something, but I appreciate that super chat. Yeah, think about these things like what we were talking about. Try to remember when you build. Okay, when you build these thumbnails, really think about everything we talked about at the beginning of this. This live stream. Think about how you can create these layers, create depth, make decisions on what it is you want to do to make sure that the thumbnail is easy to read, easy to understand, has more than just text on top of colors. Use things like shadowing, use some dimensionality to the text, choose the text font carefully. Don't be afraid to put gradients into the text, to pull them back. They don't all have to be at full intensity all the time. Try to make sure that you're thinking about the background not fighting with the foreground. Keep your images that are up front crisp. One of the things I noticed on your thumbnails, Justin, your face looked kind of orange. It looked like it wasn't a great shot of you. Get some great shots. Take the time. Everybody, if you're going to put your face in the thumbnail, take the time to get in front of a white wall or bed sheet. Really get yourself lit really well with multiple decent lights so that you're not washed out, but you're well lit. Get some great pictures and get some different expressions and do some different things. That can be something that can change the game. Let me just see here. It sounds like did want that $10 super chat from Craig Cullo. Wanted me to take a peek. Happy to do it. Let me go back over here. Craig Cullo. Let me see if I can find it. Is this it? I hope I'm saying that right. Craig Cullo. I'm seeing a pattern here right across your channel. Too busy. The font choice is hard to read. It's a tough get. It's all the same color, especially like in your channel art. There's nothing breaking that up. All the same colors. I did see it's a little more pink on this one, but it's all the same size. So those things are fighting you when I get down into your thumbnails. Too much going on, right? Because it's got Super Mario Brothers here. There's Mario. Then over here, one-armed frog. There's an arm. And then, so there's so much going on. And it's not even balanced really well because it's like not quite a third is Super Mario and 2/3. Like it's the balance is off. There's too many things drawing my eyes in too many places. So that's not going to help you really connect. I'm trying to see what might have done well. This one wasn't terrible. It looks like this is a screenshot from the game, and then you put the word dodgeball up top, right? Shooting up only in Alien's lair. I like that, shooting up only. That's pretty funny. I like the angle of that. Not bad. It's colorful. I think what I would do is let's look at your videos and let's see what's the most popular one. What worked for you so far? Some of these simple ones, that was 5 months ago, and it was kind of simple. You put the word Contra up in the cloud, so that kind of worked. The energy zone is readable, even though it's a kind of a crazy font. It's got a gradient to it. It's got some black. And then you've got like a pretty good shot from the game. So that worked. Contra gameplay, but I can't stop jumping in stage 6. I like that angle. A lot of gamers are doing that now where they go like, Minecraft, but I only walk in one direction, or Minecraft, but I can't step on anything yellow. Smart. I like the angle you're going for playing some of these. Simple is better. I know that some of these games are a little retro. Try to keep it as simple as possible. Of all these ones, there's so much going on. My eye was actually drawn to this one in the upper left because it had depth. It had those clouds and the lightning, whereas some of these other ones that aren't bad, but when they get really busy, like that's a tough image. I probably would have modified this image so that it's a little more visible. I probably would have like traced around the tank thing and the guy and maybe made them glow a little bit. Kind of like you did with this one here. You have the guy, but you get him kind of outlined in black against the green. It makes it pop a little bit better. These are your strongest ones. I think, you can notice what's working and try to stick with that. The split ones, not terrible. It's retro gaming, so I get that can be tricky. Your newer ones I'm worrying are getting too busy. When we look at your most popular, they're simpler. So the one thing I'd probably learn is it's always topic. Think about trying to go back to some of these high performing ones that were simpler. This one's very simple and easy to understand, right? With the Contra in there. Whereas some of these other ones here, it's very hard for me to understand what's going on. There's so many, I'm getting pulled in so many directions. Same with this one. There's a hand, and then there's this, and then there's words, and there's more words up here. So just think about when you're doing these thumbnails, try to simplify. Go into the gaming tab, we did that earlier, and actually look at the kind of thumbnails that are doing well in gaming. And you'll see that it is usually those simplified thumbnails. Make them pop, but too much color can be problematic if it's drawing your eye all over the place. Where's gaming? I know we had, oh, I don't want Crackle. Hold on a second. Where was the gaming? Do I have it in here? Gaming. Where's my gaming tab? Well, whatever. You silly gaming. I'll get it. Gaming. Just, take a look at, see how simple some of these are. See how great, like nice balance, noob, pro, line down the middle, nice balance in half. Beaming cars, boom, right? Like he outlined that, he traced it, did a nice job with the balance and the colors. Think about these kind of thumbnails are simple and easy. I know it's different types of games, I understand that, but simpler is always going to be better, right? And this is 17 hours ago, 61,000 views. 19 hours ago, 67,000 views. Really smart choices on even simple things. If you notice, right? A noob and a pro, but he traced around the two people, the person on the bike and then the pro on the motorcycle, so that the words are behind it. So he traced this and he made sure that this layer, he stuffed the words behind. Even noob, they're behind the people in front. Something that you don't always notice. And he did the same with this thumbnail too. Notice the truck is in front of the letters, and that this course that he's driving is over the letters as well. He's buried a bit of the letters behind the image. You can still read them fine, but he's got layer. Truck is closer, then this, then that's in the back. This is over this, and that is over the track. So those layers, that depth, even though he's using full color, it's creating depth, right? He's having things make sure that they stack. He's not just placing them on there and going, that element, that element, that element. He said, I'm going to figure out how to get some depth. So simple things like that. Pay attention to what other people are doing and see if you can cop some of their steez and go like, I can see what he's doing there. It's much simpler. The bright color, he's got the layering. The way he uses the text is smarter, two-color text. Steal some of those things from people. Don't be afraid to, amateurs borrow, pros steal. Go out there if you see something that works. Go, let me try something like that, and bring that into my style and see if it works, and see if your audience responds. That's another thing too. Your thumbnails don't have to look like other people's. You just can get some inspiration from them and go, let me tweak my style a bit. I noticed a couple of things. Like really pay attention to what's in the thumbnails, how they're using coloring, how they're using their different colors of fonts, the type of font they're using. Are they using gradients? Are they creating outlines around the fonts? How are they balancing them? Are they putting it right over everything or kind of tucking it behind elements? If you start noticing those things, then you'll start thinking about them when you make your own thumbnail and go, oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try tucking the text in behind a little bit and see what happens. Simple things like that can really change the way things work out for you. Did I get everything? There was a super sticker in here from Thunder. Was that, did I miss that one? I want to say thank you for it, first of all. Was it, I missed it before. Was that one I was supposed to look at? Did you want me to look at a thumbnail? It's up in the top. I'm seeing a super sticker from Thunder. Did I get it? Okay, I'm making sure I got everybody. All right, listen, I've talked enough today. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, make sure that you leave them in the comments below, because I always come back afterwards and read and follow up with things that if you had a question on it, and I wasn't able to catch it in chat. Thanks for the $2 to go towards your coffee at Vid Summit. Yeah, something tells me it's going to be more than $2 of coffee I'll be drinking there with you, Justin. I'll see you in Dallas. You guys have a great day. Make sure second Saturday of the month, Dean Imman and I are going to be live streaming on the StreamYard channel with a very special holiday edition of channel reviews. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you can make it over there, please do. But enjoy the rest of your week. Weekend's coming. Have some fun. Go work on some thumbnails. I'll talk to you soon.